All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another baseball tier list video. So for our last video, we ranked the starting pitchers, the best ones coming into the 2022 season. And now we are ranking teams themselves. Forget the individual players. Now we're ranking the teams based on how good they are, how good we expect them to be. We're going to combine their preseason expectations and also this microscopic sample size of the 2022 season that we've had so far. I believe it's been 1 week, about 6 or 7 games. It's really not much, but it might factor in a little bit. Maybe there's something there that you can derive to maybe change your opinion on my opinion on this. Maybe we'll see. But with that being said, guys, definitely comment your opinions on this. So the way it's going to work is we have S, A, B, C, D, the typical tier list ranking. In the S tier, I will be putting the teams that I feel are elite contenders, the cream of the crop, the teams that are legitimate World Series contenders, have a legitimate chance to win the whole thing. And that's a select few teams, I think. I don't think there's too many no doubt contenders. It's a pretty even playing field this year. A tier is going to be a team that I feel like is a playoff team. They should make the playoffs. They're one of the better teams, and therefore in baseball, if you make the playoffs, that in turn means that you have a pretty decent chance to also win the World Series. So an A team, I would say, is also a contender because they're a playoff team. They're a very good team, right? A winning team. B tier, I would say, is a good team. Probably a team that's maybe a little bit above 500. A team that might have a shot at making the playoffs. Maybe is looking on the outside, looking in, but not too far on the outside. They're in the mix, basically. A very solid, good team. And then C is it's pretty much average to below average. I'm leaning towards below average. Like, they're not terrible. They're relatively competitive. They're not a pushover, but they're not that good either. D tier is, I'm sorry, you're going for that number one prospect, number one pick in the next draft. I'm sorry, you're just not good. You're one of the worst teams in the league. But with that being said, guys, I've talked too much. Let's just get right into the tier list. So the random order that it's presented with me is, as you can see, I did not order these teams how they are. But we're going to start with the Tigers because that's how they're ordered. So Tigers are very interesting to me this year because I have them as a sleeper kind of playoff team, or I think they're going to make a playoff push. I don't think it's realistic at this point to say that they're an A team. I think B is solid. I think at worst they're probably around 500, but I think with the additions of Javi Baez, Eduardo Rodriguez, I think Miguel Cabrera through 6 or 7 games has shown that he still has some game left, and I think they have so many good young players. I think they can make a playoff push, but it's too early to put them anywhere other than B. Pirates, look, this one's easy. D tier. We all know the Pirates are not in a position to even come close to being in a position to contend. I'm sorry, Pirates fans. You're going to be terrible this year. Rockies are very confusing because you go out and get Chris Bryant 7 years. I don't know what you're doing. We thought they were selling, obviously, by getting rid of Arenado. Here they are with Chris Bryant, who's actually gotten off to a good start in the very, very beginning of this season. They're not a complete pushover there. I will not put them in D tier. I will put them in C. Probably, I say they're a 70 to 75 win team. They're not too bad, but then again, being in Coors Field, their pitching is going to really struggle this year. Hitting's not bad, though. They have some good hitters. White Sox, the favorite to win the AL Central. I will put them in the S tier. I think they're a legitimate contender. I think they have a very decent shot to win the American League, get to the World Series, assuming everyone's healthy. They just have too much talent. You know, Luis Robert, I think, could be an MVP contender. Great position players all around. Great pitching. Hopefully it's healthy. Good, very good bullpen. I mean, just all around. They're very balanced. And hopefully last year's playoffs was a good learning experience for a lot of their young players who hadn't really been there. Same with 2020. Hopefully they can put it all together this year. They are an elite contender, I would say. Angels frustrate the hell out of me because they have Mike Trout and Ohtani, 2 players that everyone loves, 2 of the best players in the game. And here they are with horrible pitching every year that does not support these 2 generational players. And here we are with the Angels not really being a contender again. Do I put them in B or C? I think they're better than the Rockies. I think they'll be above 500. I think they'll be where they always are. They're not going to be terrible, and they're not going to be great, and they're going to miss the playoffs, and they're going to be like 80 to 85 wins, around 500. I hope I'm wrong, but I just look at that pitching, especially, when I look at the starting pitching, I look at the bullpen, both of it, other than Raisel Iglesias, who's a very good closer, they have 0 bullpen depth, and they have Noah Syndergaard's a good starter, but it's just not good enough. The pitching's not good enough, and it annoys me. Padres are interesting because I think they're a playoff team, but I don't want to quite put them in A because I think there's question marks as well. I wonder how good they're going to be. We still don't know how good they're going to be post Tatis's injury. He's going to be out for another month or 2 months probably. So I need to see more. I question their pitching. I want to see if their hitting keeps up. I will put them in B. I think they can make the playoffs as a wild card team, but I don't think that they're an A team is almost like a definite playoff team. I'm very confident they'll make the playoffs. I'm not. I think they can fight. Padres can fight for a wild card, but I don't see them as a definite playoff team. Royals, a lot of good hitters. But again, I mean, it's another team that the reason why they're not good is their pitching. They're like the Rockies. They're not terrible. I think they're a last place team in the AL Central, but they're not one of the worst teams. I think they'll win 70 plus games. I think Bobby Witt Jr., exciting guy, right? I think they're hitting alone with Salvador Perez, and they have a lot of good hitters. That puts them as a C team alone. Another C team is going to be the Cubs. The Cubs have gotten off to a nice start. I think they're 4-3. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, they're not a contending team. They're not a playoff team. They've just given away too much. That whole World Series team is gone pretty much except Wilson Contreras and Jason Hayward, who are not enough to push this team towards the playoffs. Their rotation is not good enough. Also, Kyle Hendricks is still there, but that's still not enough. It's clear they're rebuilding. They're not anything more than a C. Houston Astros, as much as this annoys me, they are a legitimate contender. I see them winning the AL West. Of course, the Mariners could give them a run for their money. I hope they do. As a Dodgers fan, I hope the Astros don't win that division. But at the end of the day, you have so many good hitters with, Altuve, Bregman, I think will have a bounce back year. Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, a future and maybe current superstar. And then Verlander, I think, is going to have a nice bounce back year. They have a lot of solid starters, good bullpen. This is just a veteran team. They know what they're doing, and they're a legitimate contender. Milwaukee Brewers, maybe I would have considered putting them in S. But the more I think about it, I'm not sure. I question their hitting. I'm going to put them in A. I think they're very likely a playoff team. Probably still, I think they're going to win that division. But in these first 7 or 8 games, their offense, there's concerns there. I don't think they're at the level of the Astros and the White Sox. I think they're going to win that division, but also I think the NL Central is the worst division in baseball, so winning that division does not make you necessarily an S team. So I'll put them in A. I do definitely think they're a playoff team, and I think Christian Yelich will have a bounce-back season. The Twins, maybe I don't know. I'm gonna put the Twins in C. I'm gonna put them in C. I think that they're I think they might have a chance to be 500, but I just don't. I question their rotation a lot. A lot of journeymen in there. Joe Ryan's a very good young pitcher, but you have a lot of journeymen. Dylan Bundy and Chris Archer and Chris Paddock, and they're just question marks, and I just don't see their pitching being all the way there. Byron Buxton, so good, but he always gets injured, and I just have I think there was hopefully not, but there always seems to be a time where he gets injured. Carlos Correa was a good signing, but I don't think the Twins are a playoff team or really in a position to contend this year. I think they're a 4th place team. Then we have the Mets, who are one of those teams where you can be excited about this first week because they have looked really good without DeGrom. There were question marks about how good the Mets would be without him. Pete Alonso looks great. Lindor looks great. Marte looks like a great acquisition. And the Mets are doing just fine. I will put them in the A tier. I think they're definitely a playoff team. Maybe could win the division. Right now, they're leading the division in this microscopic sample size. I think they're definitely a playoff team when DeGrom comes back. Who knows? We'll see. But they have looked very impressive so far. Oakland A's have completely dismantled this roster, so they're a D. Surprisingly, they're 4-4. They've done better than I thought. But let's be honest. You look at that lineup. There's nothing. There's not much there. The pitching, they're going to trade Frankie Montas. They've already traded Sean Manaea, and I just don't see anything higher than D. I'm sorry, A's fans. They're completely tearing apart their team. Mariners, I will put the Mariners as an A. I think they're very likely a playoff team, therefore making them in turn a contender, right? Because if you get in the playoffs, you have a chance. We all know that. They could win the division over the Astros, but I think they'll get it in 2023. I think more likely than not, I think the Astros will win this division because the Mariners are still very young with Julio Rodriguez just getting called up to start the year. Kellenick's still figuring it out, but then Winker was a great trade they made, and they have a lot of good hitters. Mitch Haniger, right? I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're ready to win that division yet. Not this year. Rangers, they're a C team in my opinion. I think getting Simeon and Seager elevated them out of the D tier. But again, not having pitching is the difference between being a contender and a playoff team and not even being a factor in the equation. Seriously, Rangers, yeah, they got John Gray, but look at that bullpen. Look at the rotation overall. It's just not enough. It's not even close to being enough. So the Rangers are a C tier, maybe win 70, 75 games. Best case scenario, 500, maybe. And that's if their hitters like Seager and Simeon really step up, which they've done so far, but I think they're a C team. Nationals, pains me to say this because they won the World Series not too long ago, less than 3 years ago, but they are in the D tier. I mean, Juan Soto, I think, is the best hitter in baseball. I love Juan Soto, but Steven Strasburg is still injured. That rotation is bad, and the bullpen is bad. And then the rest of the hitters, other than Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, and Keibert Ruiz, who I'm high on, but that depth of their batting order, it's bad. I don't like it. I think the Nationals are a last-place team. I think they're going to finish below the Marlins, and if you're a last-place team, you have a good case to be in the D tier. Then we move on to the Toronto Blue Jays, who I absolutely love and right now are definitely an S tier. I had the Dodgers play my preseason prediction. I posted this on TikTok if you want to check that out. If you don't believe me, there's evidence of this. Dodgers and Blue Jays was my World Series. I thought Guerrero and Bichette would only keep getting better, obviously. And Bichette, he's figuring it out, but Guerrero first week has looked even better than we all anticipated. He looks like he could win the MVP this year. I hope he does because he's on my fantasy team. So let's hope that happens. But I think the Blue Jays are, my opinion, the best team in the AL right now. So that makes him a contender and an S team for sure. Cardinals are, they could be a playoff team. I don't see them winning the division. I think the Brewers win this division, in this awful division, I hate to say. I think the Cardinals can make the playoffs, but I will go with them as a B team. I think they're kind of an 85-win team. A teams are kind of leaning towards 90-plus wins. I don't think the Cardinals win 90 games. I think they win 85. Could make the wild card, maybe 85, 86, 80. Like last year, they won 89 games, 88, 89, high 80s, and that was after winning a bunch of games in a row. So for most of the year, they were playing 500 ball. And it concerns me that Adam Wainwright's their best pitcher. He's getting up there in age. Oh, he's already up there. He's way up there in age. I don't know. We'll see. They'll be solid, but I'm going to put them in B tier for now. Orioles, easy D tier. They might be the worst team in baseball this year, and I think they could contend for one of the worst records of all time with this division that has 4 other potential playoff teams. Sorry, Orioles fans, D tier. Braves, you know, this might surprise you because I think they will win this division, or right now they look like, or right now, coming into this year, I would have said they win this division. Still think it. It's too early to change that opinion, obviously. This might be surprising. I don't think they're an S. I think they're an A tier team because a lot of people forget that last year, even though they won the World Series, they only won 88 games last year. They were a 3 seed. I don't think a lot of people thought that the Braves would win the World Series last year. And you lose your heart and soul in Freddie Freeman. Obviously, Ozuna and Acuna will be back soon. Ozuna's back. They get Matt Olson. But that starting rotation's had some question marks. They have not looked good the first week. So right now, I will say they're in the A tier. Diamondbacks, them and the Orioles can be tied for the 2 worst teams, I think. They're gonna be awful. And then in a very, very good division with the Dodgers and Giants and in a good division, they're going to get beaten down, and there's just no way the D-backs win more than 60 games. I'm sorry. I think they win in the 50s. Best case scenario, maybe 65 wins, but that's it. Red Sox, definitely could make the playoffs this year. Coming into this year, I would have said that the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays, all 4 of them make the playoffs. But this pitching for the Red Sox really concerns me, and it's moved them down, honestly, to B tier from A because they have great hitting, obviously, with Devers and Bogarts when he when he's healthy, and then you just got a great lineup. JD Martinez, right? All these great players, and Trevor Story, the acquisition, obviously great offseason acquisition, but that pitching is just terrible. Chris Sale, when's he coming back? We don't know. Nathan Eovaldi, he's good. The rest of that rotation, question marks. That bullpen, horrible. There's just question marks everywhere. You can't have big question marks for your pitching staff and expect to win 90 games or expect to be in the S or A tier. So Red Sox can make the playoffs, but they're very hitting dominant, which is concerning. Marlins, they're respectable, kind of, but they're C tier, not quite D tier. They had an interesting offseason getting Jorge Soler. They have a really good 1-2-3 rotation, but overall, they don't have the depth to really contend this year or be a playoff team. But I think they can win in the 70s. Their win total will be in the 70s, I think. So I don't think they're quite D tier. I don't think they're a last place team. I think, like I said, the Nationals will be the last place team in that division. So we move on to the Yankees. You know what? As hotly debated as the Yankees are, I still think they're an A tier team because, look, you have big names everywhere. You have Judge, you have Stanton, you got LeMahieu, Donaldson in the offseason, and that's a loaded lineup. No matter how critical you can be of the Yankees, how strikeout or home run dependent they are. Obviously, they have Rizzo as well. They get a lot of strikeouts, but that's a very good bullpen. Garrett Cole has struggled, but overall, their pitching's good. It's better than the Red Sox, definitely better than the Red Sox, and that's the separator, I think. Yankees, I definitely think the Yankees are a playoff team. So I'll put them in the A tier. Rays as well, I will put them in the A tier. I think these two are definite wild card teams, in my opinion. If either of these teams don't make the playoffs, I think it's a major disappointment. Rays, they keep getting it done. Don't doubt Kevin Cash. They'll put together a cheap team, but they'll platoon, and they'll have openers, and it won't be pretty, but they find a way to make the playoffs. And Wander Franco looks amazing. He looks so good so far. He's hitting over 500, and then they just have so many good players, and it's a small pieces to a great, larger, bigger picture, great system. So it's the Rays. They keep finding a way, man. I tell you, they always find a way. They're an A team. Reds. Oh boy, how they have slipped. It's just beyond me. They're like the A's of the NL. They're a D tier team. I think they could finish last. I don't think the Pirates necessarily are guaranteed to finish last. I could see them fighting for with the Pirates to get the last place in that division. The Reds have really nothing left. Not much. They have Votto, they have Moustakas, but they traded most of their rotation. That bullpen's terrible. Hunter Green is very exciting as a prospect, but I don't see the Reds winning more than 60-plus games. I don't see it. Cleveland Guardians. All right. I told you, 7 games, a week into the season is such a small sample size. But the Guardians are one of the few teams that have actually changed my opinion about them. I personally think Jose Ramirez, he's got that contract extension. He looks phenomenal through 6 or 7 games. I think he's got something like 14 RBIs through 7 games, something ridiculous like that. But the Guardians are, I have to get used to saying that because I'm not used to it, sorry. The Guardians have been getting contributions from unlikely names like Steven Kwan, Owen Miller. These have been 2 of the most surprising players so far. Those 2, along with Jose Ramirez, are like top 3 in the AL in batting average. They have the 3 top players in the AL. Obviously, it's so early, but I really like their hitting. I don't think how many of you expected Cleveland to lead the league in total runs scored through the first week? I'll wait for the answer. The answer is none of you. Not even Cleveland fans, okay? They've surprised me. Their pitching was their strong suit, but their offense has stepped up. And because of that, I'm going to put them in B, but I think right now, I like them as that last wild card spot in the AL. I think they've been very surprising, and I'll give it to them. I like Cleveland. I really like what I've seen from them so far, so I will put them in the B tier. I think they're a second-place team in that division behind the White Sox. Then we have the Dodgers, the most obvious S tier there is. I mean, come on now. I think right now they're clearly the best team in baseball, the most ridiculous lineup you'll ever see. As a Dodgers fan, I could not be happier, obviously. Starting pitching's had questions, but at the end of the day, you have Buehler, you have Urias, you have Kershaw coming off getting yanked out of a perfect game, but he looked obviously phenomenal, perfect in his first start, right? So there's questions about the rotation, but there's still the pitching's just phenomenal. Bullpen starting, let's be honest, come on, there's really no big flaws there. Easy S tier, easiest S tier. Phillies, they have the talent of an A tier team. And just because of that talent, the great bats they have, reigning MVP Bryce Harper, Real Muto, Hoskins, they have Segura, they got Castellanos and Schwarber in the offseason. And Nola and Wheeler make a pretty solid rotation. But where they go, the reason why their talent's A tier, but they're really a B tier team. They might have a shot at a wild card spot, but that defense, man, it's just terrible. If they don't make the playoffs, it's probably because their defense, their infield, they've already gotten off to a terrible start. I don't think anyone expected their defense to be good, but it might be even worse than we thought. It's so bad. They're very, very offensive oriented, and they're just hoping that their defense isn't their ultimate downfall, but I have a bad feeling it might be. They might make the playoffs just sheerly on their offensive firepower alone, strictly on that, but I don't know, man. That defense is the reason they can't move up past B, but their talent's there, though. Giants, they won the division last year, the NL West, over the Dodgers. Pains me to say that. Best record in baseball last year, but I think a lot of us can agree the Giants are not going to be the same. Even if Buster Posey didn't retire, even if Kevin Gausman didn't leave, that was kind of just a magical year. I have doubts that Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, all these old-timers are going to just have another magical year. Maybe they're like the Phillies. Maybe they have a shot to contend at the wild card spot, but I don't think they're a surefire thing to make the playoffs. So, which means they're appropriate for the B tier. They'll be competitive. They have a shot at the playoffs. All these teams in B tier have a shot at the playoffs. A tier, I'm confident that they'll make the playoffs. I'd be surprised if they didn't. S tier, they have a good shot to win it all. So, again, another pretty even tier list, I would say. At least 4 teams in every tier. I like it, guys. I like it. I think it's a very balanced, interesting year. I think the Dodgers are the clear standout in baseball right now. But overall, the rest, I mean, everything's blended close together. There are a lot of teams that have a chance. And I like that. I like competition. I like competitive balance. So guys, comment your opinions. Let me know, where do you agree with me? Where do you disagree with me? If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like. If you're a baseball fan, subscribe if you haven't done so already. That would be so awesome. Thank you if you decided to do that. Thanks anyways for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.